Welcome to The Explainer. We love taking these big, complex ideas, articles, and research, and just breaking them down into really clear takeaways for you. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we are looking at a cheerful yet, well, incredibly dark philosophy, straight from Robert Greene's famous work, The 48 Laws of Power. Specifically, we're dissecting the second law, which explores the peril of friends and the utility of enemies. It's a fascinating, completely unvarnished look at human nature, raw ambition, and why trust isn't always exactly what it seems.
So, are your closest friends your biggest liability? It's a wildly provocative thought, isn't it? I mean, you kind of have to love the irony of human nature here. We somehow looked at the beautiful, comforting concept of friendship and actually wondered, hey, what if jealousy could ruin the whole shebang? It's an incredible, albeit slightly pessimistic, realization about our species. But the core argument we're unpacking today is that when power, money, leadership, or business are put on the table, the traditional rules of friendship just completely change.
This presents a really fascinating paradigm shift. Because think about it. We all grew up with this comforting myth, right? Friends equal loyalty and enemies equal danger. But when power enters the mix, friends can actually become jealous incredibly easily. They start to feel entitled to your success, and they will absolutely hide their true feelings just to maintain the closeness of that relationship. On the flip side, former enemies actually have something to prove. If you give them a chance, they often feel immensely grateful and will work so much harder to gain your trust. And in a really strange way, that makes their behavior far more predictable. Section 1. A Lethal Royal Friendship, or The Cautionary Tale of Emperor Michael III. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why blindly trusting a friend can be a completely fatal mistake. Walk through this deadly timeline with me. Picture this. On day 1, Basilius literally saves Michael's life. That creates a massive, overwhelming debt of gratitude, right? So months later, Michael repays him by making him chief advisor. Fast forward a few years, and because Michael firmly believes that gratitude equals permanent loyalty, he just hands Basilius ultimate wealth and military control. The final year, Basilius, now holding all the cards and just consumed by ambition, actually murders Michael to become emperor himself. A string of incredibly generous favors led directly to absolute disaster. Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of betrayal and why gratitude fades quickly. It's super easy to look at history and just call Basilius a monster, but the psychology here points out something much deeper about us humans. Here is exactly how a best buddy turns into a literal threat. Step 1, feeling indebted. Let's be honest, no one actually likes feeling like they owe someone else their entire success. It just makes people feel inferior and dependent. So that leads to step 2. Resentment and envy begin to quietly build up. Instead of saying, wow, you made me successful, the ego steps in. And that brings us to step 3, entitlement. They start thinking, you know what, I actually deserve this myself. I'm the one doing all the real hard work here. Once that entitlement really takes root, boom, step 4, betrayal, becomes dangerously easy for them to justify to themselves. To really hammer this home, the source material underscores this stark warning with a very simple animal fable. So the farmer saves the snake refuses to leave, then the heron steps in and saves the farmer from the snake. And what does the farmer do? He turns around and tries to kill the heron. It's a bleak little story for sure, but the takeaway is crystal clear. Kindness alone absolutely does not guarantee loyalty. Gratitude is totally fleeting, and in a lot of people, being overly kind can literally make you a target. All right, Section 3, the utility of enemies and Emperor Sung's brilliant strategy.
So, if you can't rely on your friends, who in the world can you rely on? Let's look at Emperor Sung, who took the exact opposite approach to Michael III. Instead of relying on his closest pals to run his empire, Emperor Sung took in dangerous, defeated enemies. He forgave them, rewarded them, and gave them safety. And the result? Fierce, unwavering loyalty. Why? Well, because these former enemies fully expected to be severely punished. When they received mercy instead, they realized that trust wasn't just automatic, it had to be earned. So they worked tirelessly to prove themselves. They were highly motivated and incredibly careful, which frankly made them incredibly effective allies.
Section 4. Power in the Modern World, and what happens when emotion clouds our judgment.
Let's move to the present day and see how this builds, because obviously we aren't Byzantine emperors fighting for literal thrones. But these ancient power dynamics, they are everywhere around us, quietly destroying modern domains. Take business, for example. What happens when a company hires the CEO's best friend instead of the most competent person? Mistakes get made, criticism becomes deeply personal, and professionalism just goes right out the window. Or in the workplace, If your friend gets promoted above you, human nature kicks in hard. People constantly compare salaries, status, and influence. And let's be real, social media has basically turned this into an Olympic sport. It sparks deep, hidden jealousy. And politics? Oh man, leaders are rarely brought down by their open enemies. They're destroyed by their inner circles and trusted allies who betray them quietly right from the inside.
Section 5. What the law doesn't mean, and de-escalating the paranoia.
Before we all retreat into underground bunkers and never speak to anyone again, let's explicitly pause and clarify this philosophy. Robert Greene is absolutely not telling you to isolate yourself or abandon your loved ones. The rule is actually pretty simple. Don't mix friendship and power carelessly. A highly skilled stranger may serve you infinitely better than an unqualified friend. You actually protect your friendships by keeping them completely separate from the brutal, messy arenas of business, politics, promotions, and money. When you keep those worlds apart, you actually save the friendship.
Which brings us to Section 6, the real lesson: competence over closeness. Think of Robert Greene not as a moral guide telling us how we should behave, but as a historian studying how we actually do behave when ambition enters the room. So the crucial point is this: keep friends for friendship, but work with the skilled and competent. It's not about being cold or ruthless. It's about recognizing that friendship has incredible, irreplaceable value, but it is a terrible, unstable foundation for a business partnership or a power structure. Choose the people you work with based on their ability and their reliability, not just because you enjoy grabbing a beer with them.
So I want to leave you with this one lingering question to think about today. Is emotion blinding your judgment? Take a real moment to examine your own choices, your own projects, and your professional circles. Are you elevating people out of genuine competence or, honestly, just out of comfort? Human psychology is a really complex maze, and sometimes the people standing right closest to us are the ones who can do the absolute most damage if we put them in the wrong roles. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this empowers you to navigate your own professional relationships with a sharper, more strategic, and ultimately much more successful mindset. Catch you next time.